How are you today? As I stated in the past video, I would like to discuss what fear is today and how it impacts all of us. Fear is probably the biggest crippling emotion that we carry. We're also unsure of where fear comes from. We have trouble identifying it in our own personal lives. Fear by itself, it's amazing how much it freezes us. Fear also creates anxiety, and fear also brings to us feelings of dread, which is then reinforced by the anxiety. So I looked for many different ways through the course of my life of understanding what fear is. And whether you're looking at the Greeks or other philosophers throughout the ages, everyone gets a little technical. For me, best part about fear that I found that identified with me was the acronym of FEAR by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And what it is false evidence appearing real. And that really, for some reason, connected with me. I think it was because of the simplicity of it. It wasn't really theoretical, and it just really kind of broke it down, again, to layman's terms. So I want to run through those with you so that there is that clarity. False evidence appearing real. So false. False means it's something that we've gone ahead and created, and that internally we have given life to. We have decided that this has to be because it just is, and that's our feeling. But my whole way of expressing that falseness is our feeling inside. And it could be that we have facts, but the facts are only half known. We've created the rest of the story. Facts that somehow, as we put this together, allows us to create this truth. So it's false. It's a false thought. It's the start of the freeze. So false evidence. So we have this false thought, and then the evidence is everything we throw in to back that up. We can construct in our minds anything we want. We're very smart as human beings. We can reach out and say, all right, this is now logical based on X, Y, Z. This is now logical because it now appears real. So we start with a false premise, and then we give it life by creating evidence, something to support it. And then false evidence appearing. We do a great job at making sure that whatever the false statement is, we're going to give evidence to it to create it real, okay? And then it's going to appear to us in a logical manner so that we decide that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I have to be right. This is why it is. This is why fear has stopped me. I'm afraid of this because. And the last letter R is real. So because of the first three steps we do as human beings are very successful, it must be real at this point. It must be real. So fear, again, broken down, is false evidence appearing real. For me, that was something I could hold on to because it was very easy to shift that over to the reality of my life. So as I would tell myself, okay, that, lies make you lie down and die, it's the same time that I found fear and the way it was described, false evidence appearing real. So you can see how the two kind of work together. So I started looking and saying, what am I fearful of in my life back in the day? And today I still have fears. So I started understanding that I was fearful of certain things in life that didn't make sense as far as leading to my success. I had thrown up barriers. So in my personal relationship, fear had stopped me from many different situations. But fear in business also stopped me from I don't feel like I'm good enough to get to that next level. I don't think that, given the opportunity, I'm smart enough to get to that next level. In business, fear froze me. It stopped me from asking my, supervisors and other teammates what it is to take to the next level. I was afraid. I was fearful also that if I learned it, I may not be good at it because I didn't practice it. And I was afraid of being successful. That fear of success is unbelievably freezing of growth. In personal life, I was afraid of creating relationships and being committed to those relationships. I came up with all the reasons why I couldn't. I created all reasons I'm fearful about building relationships with my family. So fear affected me in just about every facet of my life, as I'm sure it does with you too. But fear alone, as devastating as it is, creates anxiety. Anxiety is good and bad. Probably you haven't heard how anxiety is good. Anxiety can create you moving quickly to accomplish a goal. Anxiety can, in fact, be a stimulus to completing tasks. Anxiety is a cure for procrastination. So you could be anxious that you're missing a deadline. Now you got to get going. You can be anxious that you're, running late to pick up your children. So, okay, well, I got to get going so I'm not late. You can be anxious for a lot of things that have positive results. And from that standpoint, we have to be a little anxious in order to accomplish goals. I think that's just logical. Anxiety, on the other hand, from a negative standpoint, can be based on feelings that, again, are false evidence appearing real. We start becoming anxious because of what we think is real. We become anxious because the things that we face are really not in concrete, therefore they're not describable. We just have a feeling for it. It's an emotion. Anxiety is an emotion.
Doesn't really have any concrete basis. It's what we think. We try to come up with solutions for the future, and we don't even know how the future is going to work out. Anxiety creates stagnant feelings, which then perpetuates fearful realities. Anxiety. It's the cousin of fear. Anxiety is very crippling.
But anxiety by itself has to be respected because it has that positive outcome and it has the negativity that most of us associate with anxiety. So when you take actions to bust down the fear, when you overcome your pain to success, when you start to realize that you can move on, move forward, you start to subside and alleviate anxiety. You start to take over what you're fearful of. I got news for you, and I experienced this through my own life. Nothing is really what it appears to be. When you get past the fear, you start wondering, why was I fearful? What was it that made me afraid of the situation? I decided to move forward, and I got over it. And then looking back, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. That's because anxiety is an emotion which supports fear. And so when you get past that, you're no longer anxious about it because it no longer exists. So anxiety is the cousin of fear. And there's a lot of things that go into this, and how it affects our business life is scary. How it affects our personal life is scary. But when you can create a balance between the two on how to overcome fear and anxiety, and really how they run parallel with your own personal values, you have a game plan and a destination in mind that you can go ahead and pick one thing out that you're fearful of. Identify why you're anxious of it. How do they come together to create this roadblock? And then say, I need some education on how to get around it. Or, I don't really have the education, I just know I can't stay here. I know I have to be on that other side. I can no longer be afraid of this. Again, my personal mantra was, lies make you lie down and die. I didn't have a lot of education, but I had a lot of grit, and I still do. I knew I couldn't be where I was. And I knew that I could not sit back and just absorb tons of information. I had to have motion. Tony Robbins says emotion is motion. So I had to react. I had to go forward. And I did. As you will, when you take into consideration that fear is something that's inbred in us, because it does have its positive as well as it protects us. But from business standpoint, from personal relational standpoint, when it starts to freeze us, then fear is a huge negative, and that's when anxiety, the negative part of anxiety, comes into play. So understand they both have positives, they both have negatives. However, especially during the situation we're in, the negative seems to be the one that's part of our lives. We can get over this, because tomorrow is what? It's going to be better than today, and I'm so excited for tomorrow. So let's continue to have a fantastic day, and furthermore, we will succeed because you're that good. Talk to you soon.